Oh, it is hot in South Carolina, y'all. So I'm just gonna stay here and hang out inside my freezer for a while, I think. Hey y'all, hey, Erica from TimetoShrink. Welcome back to another meal prep. We like to do meal preps once a week around here. I also do a lot of what I eat in a days and what's for dinner type videos. We also do an episode called Time to Drink every Friday night. So if any of that interests you, I would love for you to take a second and subscribe, hit that notification bell. You actually have to tell it that you want to be notified each video. Otherwise, it just does random notifications. I'm not sure why. And also, if you enjoy my content, I would love it if you would stop and give me a thumbs up. It really does help my channel. I don't understand the YouTube algorithm, but I know it helps. So today we are doing something a little different, something I don't usually share with y'all, but I did my big monthly Costco trip yesterday. And so today I have a lot of meat to prep. Let me show you what we're working with and jump right into this, y'all. So I just started setting out the stuff for my large batch drink. I'm going to be making a strawberry lemonade shrub. So we have strawberry lime shrub here. We've got lemon juice. We've got some of my favorite heirloom rye vodka. This is one of our very favorites to work with. And this is not what it says. This is a keto triple sec. I do use brandy to make my keto triple sec. That's in the cocktail book. But what this is my version of triple sec, but low carb, very low carb. Okay, and then we got this massive meat. This is a ton of meat. In order to not spend $6 a pound and only spend, this was $1.99 a pound, I bought a ton. So we're going to turn this into meatballs and hamburgers, maybe even a meatloaf. I'm not exactly sure yet. We'll see how far it takes us. And then I bought this massive pork loin. A really cool thing about this pork loin is you can cut off the two ends to make roasts because the meat on the ends is just a little bit different. So those will be 2 roasts. And then in the middle, I'm going to cut pork chops. And I love it because I can cut them to the thickness that I prefer. So we're going to cut that up. The 2 roasts we're going to freeze as is, and the chops we're going to marinate. So I'll show you some of our favorite marinades. Then these are just my Time to Shrink breadcrumbs. Basically, it's just a low-carb breadcrumb that I make out of pork rinds and nutritional yeast and Parmesan. And then I don't know what my plan is exactly, so I set out all the different herbs and spices that we might want. I pretty much use Fresh Jack's exclusively just because I love it. So I have all the things out that I might use. And then I'm going to do some meatballs with pesto, some meatballs with sun-dried tomatoes and feta cheese. Feta cheese is not out. So we've got Parmesan, Worcestershire. I put that in my hamburgers. And then I've got a bunch of different vinegars and oils to make our marinade. I don't have a plan yet. We'll go with what I feel like, but I'll definitely share it with you. Okay. Let's get started. I think we're going to chop up the pork first and then we'll get into the burgers. Okay, so what I have here is our long pork loin. It has a fat cap on it. You can decide if you want to go through and cut off some of the fat if you think the fat is too thick in a few areas. Again, I think that the fat works pretty well on this because if you're doing it as a roast in the crock pot or in the oven, it breaks down pretty well and gives you a really good flavor. But if there's areas where it's super thick, you might want to just go through and you just use your knife just like this and you just trim it off. If you're someone who doesn't like to leave the fat on your meat, you can trim off as much as you want. Just know that pork is pretty lean other than this fat cap. So it's easy to get it too dry. So I'm not going to take off any more than that. That's all the fat that I have left. I could save this and render it down if I really wanted to, but we probably won't today. Okay, so next thing is you're going to flip your pork over so that you can see the gradient, see where it changes. You can really see how the meat changes. See how right here is where your pork chops start. So I'm going to take my knife and go into my roast here. And there is one roast. Okay, if you want to chop it down the middle because you have a smaller family and you wouldn't use all of this at one time, you absolutely could cut it into 2 roasts. So what I'm going to do now is put this in a Ziploc bag. You always want to make sure that your Ziploc bags are pre-labeled because your hands are really nasty right now, right? So you get your Ziploc bag or your food saver bag, you label it, you want to write what it is and the date. because you think that you're gonna remember what something is, but you won't. So see, this is already labeled. Throw it in here, and then I'm just gonna set it to the side. Once my hands are clean, I can mash this down. If you wanted to marinate your roast, now would be the time to do that also. I haven't decided if I'm gonna marinate them. So, next step, same thing here. See how the pork chop, you can see the smoothness, and then it starts to look different. That's where you know to go ahead and make another roast. Actually, this side of it though, it's pretty similar, and if you didn't want to make a second roast and wanted to just make a bunch of pork chops, the rest of this would work pretty well just for pork chops too. And the more I think about it, the more I think that's what my plan is going to be. So your pork chops will be a little bit different, but I think that's what I'm gonna do. At this point, you can decide how thick you want your pork chop to be, right? So do you want a really nice, huge, thick pork chop that maybe you're gonna stuff? Or do you want super thin pork chops that are gonna cook really quickly? You could do some of both, and I'm left-handed, so we're flipping this baby around. You just decide what you want. I'm going with really thin ones, at least for this section. So here we go, really, really thin. It's still got some nice fat on it. What we'll probably do with these is marinate them. I also sometimes will leave some plain, and then what I do is I dip it into melted butter and then dip it into my keto breadcrumbs that I showed you earlier, and then put it in the air fryer or put it in the oven, and they become the most moist, tender, and crunchy at the same time pork chops. My kids love these. Oftentimes we'll do them ranch flavored. You can do any seasoning you want. You could use your marinated pork chops for that too. So there's just some ideas, y'all. Y'all probably, if you've watched me for very long, you've probably seen me do all of the above, but you're just gonna keep going through with your knife, whatever size you want. And then whatever size your family is, that's how many you wanna freeze, you know, whatever amount you like to cook. So with these really thin ones, I'll probably do 10 because we have 5 people. So that would be 2 thin pork chops per person. And I will put that in the labeled container, and then we will marinate it. I think we're gonna do a Cajun marinade on this one this time. Okay, so just throwing those in, and I'm gonna cut 5 more of these thin ones, and then we will do the marinade in just a bit. So basically, I just do all of the cutting that I'm gonna do and put them all in the Ziploc bags, and then I go back and do the marinades. Otherwise, you're washing your hands 50 million times, you know? And if you're making these to put on the grill, sometimes it's nice to have really nice thick ones, especially if there's something that you would like to stuff or something like that. So this next set, I think I'm gonna do a little bit on the thicker side. And when I do thicker pork chops, then I will freeze less per package. I think we'll do Jamaican jerk on this next set. We did Jamaican jerk last week, and it was so good in a marinade. I think it was on chicken. But pretty much any marinade that works on chicken will work on pork as well. If you get one that seems like it just has way too much fat on the end, you can go ahead and chop a little bit more of that fat off too. All right, y'all, I decided one of the things that we had recently in a home chef meal or one of those kinds of meals was a pork banh mi, and it used like really small sliced cut up pork. So I decided with the last of the pork that would have really been that extra roast, to go ahead and chop it up into small pieces, and I'm gonna freeze it like this, and then I can recreate that pork meal because it was one that my family really, really liked, and it was something I had never made before. So there we go. We have the pork banh mi. This is gonna be pork banh mi. We have these whole bigger pork chops that I'm gonna do Jamaican jerk. We've got the smaller pork chops that we're gonna do Cajun style. And we have this big roast that I'm trying to decide still if I'm gonna marinate or not. So that was a lot of meals there. 1, 2, 3, that's 4 meals out of that. And it was, I cannot remember how much it cost. It was either $1.99 or $2.99 a pound. It's a much better deal if you cut it yourself, and it literally took me 5 minutes to cut this. All right, I'm gonna put all this in the baggies and wash my hands, and then we'll get to making marinade, y'all. So for my pork roast, this I'm gonna probably end up cooking either in the Instant Pot or the crock pot. I'm going to take just some green enchilada sauce. This is a mild green enchilada sauce that's also relatively low carb per person, and I think that was way more than I needed to put in there. Oh well. It'll be nice and marinated. And I'm just gonna simply let it sit, let it freeze in this sauce. And that is gonna be the extent of this. If you wanted to go ahead and put some extra spices in this too, you could. But the green enchilada sauce already has a lot of spices, so I'm gonna save my other dry spices for when I actually cook it. I don't think it's gonna need it for the marinade. For the pork banh mi, I'm gonna use just some coconut aminos. You could absolutely use soy sauce if that's what you prefer. I'm just pouring about 2 ounces in there, and then I'm gonna take some togarashi seasoning, and I'm gonna put about a tablespoon of that. And it looks like I need to order some more togarashi here pretty soon, y'all. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit, not much, probably about an ounce of olive oil just to help get things moving there. We're gonna add some salt and pepper, and that is gonna be the extent of this one. And then when we wanna make it, we'll thaw it out, and there won't be much to this dish. It's just a really, really simple dish. You cook up the pork, you cook up some veggies to go with it. Just super simple, super delicious. When I'm making marinades, I do use quite a bit of spice, quite a bit of salt and pepper, because it's marinating, right? It's not all going to stick on it while you cook it, but the more flavor you can get in when you're marinating, the better. So we're just gonna smush this all around so that everything is nicely covered. And then I've shared this with y'all before, but I'm gonna share it again. My trick is I always, whatever I marinate, chicken or pork or anything, I always after I've mashed it all together, I lay it out flat. This does 2 things. It ensures that every single bit is covered without having to use an excessive amount of marinade. So you're saving money on your marinade, and it is going to thaw so much quicker. A flat surface is going to just thaw way quicker than if all of this was balled up in the bottom, and it stores more easily in your freezer. So this one's ready. 2 down, less than 5 minutes, right? So next is going to be Jamaican jerk. What I'm going to do for my Jamaican jerk is equal parts olive oil and vinegar. Because it's a jerk, I do use more vinegar. So I'm going to do 2 ounces of, I'm just using this to measure it, 2 ounces of oil. I'm using olive oil because I'm completely out of avocado oil. Usually I would use avocado oil here. And then I'm going to do 2 ounces of apple cider vinegar. You could do a white vinegar here if you wanted, but I like the benefits of raw unfiltered vinegars, and I like apple cider vinegar here. So we're going to pour this right in over our pork chops. Then we're going to take our island spice. This is Fresh Jack's version of a Jamaican jerk, wherever you want to get your Jamaican jerk. But y'all, Fresh Jack's is a family-owned company, Jacksonville, Florida. They are so amazing. Everything is fresh, organic. Everything is small batches. So they make them as they sell them, right? So they're not sitting on the storage shelf for a really long time, and you get that taste in the bottle. Like this is just like the best tasting organic spices I've ever had. I love it. It is spicy. This is island jerk, so they call it a medium spice. I'm gonna go in with about a tablespoon probably, and same thing. We're just gonna shut it, mash it all up, and then flatten it out. Next, we're gonna do some Cajun seasoned pork. So I'm gonna take my Bold Bayou, is the Cajun seasoning from Fresh Jack's. Again, about a tablespoon. You can use more or less. And then you can also add some salt and pepper to this if you would like. I'm probably not gonna add pepper because there is plenty of spice in here. And then we're gonna kind of do the same thing we did last time. I'm gonna do 2 ounces of a vinegar. I'm using red wine vinegar this time. I am going to do about the same thing, maybe about 1.5 ounces of our oil. Put that in, knead it up just like we did the last ones, and then we're gonna go throw these in the freezer, and then we're gonna get started on the ground beef, y'all. I'll see you back here in just a minute. Okay, we're gonna make hamburgers. There's a few different ways you can make hamburger patties. I just feel like homemade is better, and if I just go ahead and make them, then they're ready. Sometimes I just mix it with salt and pepper, a little bit of Worcestershire, and then a seasoning like Keto Chop House or Grill Master. Other times I like to put some flavored compound butters in the middle of them. It's a really great way to add in some flavor. So today we're going to use up blue cheese herb compound butter, and then we're also going to use some roasted garlic compound butter. We're going to use up both of those today. I have lots of other compound butters. We did a whole video on compound butters, how to make flavored compound butters. It is like ridiculously stupid easy. We will link it in the iCards above and down below so that you can go watch that video if you're interested. But it's something that takes things up, your food just up to another level. Like you could grill a steak and then put a little bit of this compound butter on. Or when you're making sauces in a skillet, adding a little bit of some of these compound butters. We have a lot of different ones for you. For these, what I'm going to do is I've got 3 pounds of ground beef here, and I'm going to go in with the Grill Master. And I usually use about a tablespoon per pound. So I'm just kind of doing about a tablespoon per pound here. Also going to do some salt and some pepper. Some people will add an egg. I don't usually add an egg to my burgers. I usually leave it pretty simple. But if you have trouble with your burgers holding together, then sometimes adding an egg and even a little bit of breadcrumbs, like my keto breadcrumbs, can be an option. But I'm just going to get in here and mix all of this together, and then we'll start forming our burgers. And I like to freeze them. So what I do is I put like a piece of wax paper or parchment between each burger, and then I stack them and put them in Ziploc bags. I do have a food saver, but I almost always just use the Ziplocs and hardly ever use the food saver. Do y'all have a food saver? Do you like it? I used to order chicken in bulk, like major bulk, and that's what I use the food saver for the most part, because I'd have to break it down and freeze it, and it was a lot. So if you're going to be storing it for a really long time, I definitely suggest a food saver vacuum sealer because it gets every little bit of air out. But otherwise, this just regular Ziplocs work. So this is 3 pounds of burgers. You can decide if you want to make really humongous burgers or if you want to make small burgers. Whatever sounds good to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my compound butter. This is the roasted garlic. And I'm just going to cut some little slivers. I'm going to put it right in the middle of the burger and then just form my burger around it, just like this. Okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and slice these up, y'all, so that we can do this kind of assembly line style. While this is still really frozen, it's really easy to get it chopped to the size that you want. And you really don't need a lot, so I do pretty thin slivers here. When I put it on top of a steak, sometimes I'll do a little bit more, or if I'm using it to build a sauce. But we're literally just going to put it inside our burgers. And we'll label one bag the roasted garlic burgers and the other one blue cheese so that we will know the difference. So let me just run through this and I will be right back, y'all. All right, y'all, I ended up using a little bit more meat and went ahead and made 10 of each style burger. So we've got 10 of the roasted garlic compound butter and 10 of the blue cheese compound butter. And I just put them in the Ziploc bags with the little parchment paper in between them so they don't stick. And those are ready for the freezer. And you can pull them out, cook them from frozen, or thaw them either way. It works great. Okay, next thing we're gonna make is some sun-dried tomato and feta meatballs. All right, y'all, now we're gonna make some meatballs. We might make a few different kinds, but we're gonna start with, I have 3 pounds of ground beef and ½ a cup of my breadcrumbs. I like to make these ahead of time. Again, these are in my cookbook, the exact recipe, but it's pork rinds, nutritional yeast, and Parmesan cheese. I'm telling you, these are the best breadcrumbs. They are so good. Even people that don't follow keto have been loving them. Okay, these are gonna be feta and sun-dried tomato. So we are going to, I'm actually gonna use some of the oil from the sun-dried tomato too because it's super, super tasty. So I'm just pouring some of that in there. And then we're gonna cut up some sun-dried tomatoes. Sun-dried tomatoes are a little bit carby, but it's just gonna be cut up small throughout the meatballs. It's not gonna be a ton. If you like to track everything exactly and you're making this, I don't have a recipe, I'm just making this up, but you could just weigh everything out as you're putting it in and then it would be very easy to know exactly what your carbs are gonna be. I used to do that, but I just have gotten to the point where I don't really track anymore. I just kind of wing it and watch what I'm choosing to eat, but I don't track exactly unless I'm going to put it in a cookbook. And if I decide to put this in the next cookbook, then it'll have the exact macros, okay? So basically, you just want to get your sun-dried tomatoes really, really finely chopped because we don't want big chunks, and we want it to spread through all of the meatballs, just giving them really good flavor, but not having like big humps. So actually, you know what? We'll just measure this, so just so you know, in case you are tracking. So about 5 tablespoons is where I'm going in at the moment. You could, this is 8.5 ounces total. There are 2 teaspoons is a serving, and it is 3 carbs per 2 teaspoons. So you could go ahead and actually, I think we're just gonna go ahead and use all of these, y'all. So 1 jar of sun-dried tomatoes for 3 whole pounds of beef. So we're gonna get a lot of meatballs out of this. You can always cut back on this if you're watching your carbs, or you could just use the oil from the sun-dried tomatoes because it's got so much flavor in it, and then just use very, very few actual sun-dried tomatoes. You could totally go that route. I'm gonna crack 2 eggs into this. I usually do an egg per pound, so we may actually need 3. I don't know, we'll see. And I'm going to use some Herb de Provence. This is a sea salt, so this is in place of your salt. You don't want to go too heavy-handed with this because this is salt, but it's a really good flavor. It's got rosemary and marjoram and basil and oregano and thyme and just a lot of really, really yummy things. And then garlic and herb. This one's salt-free, so I like to pair these together. I think they go together really well. And I usually do about a tablespoon of seasoning per pound of meat. I'm going to do about 3 tablespoons of that. Actually, that would be all of that. That is all we have left. And now we are going to add some feta. I'm going to measure out my feta. I think I'm probably going to do a cup of feta for this. I feel like I need a bigger bowl, y'all. I don't know that I'm going to be able to get my hands in here. I think we're going to switch to a bigger bowl, but there's a cup of feta. And we're going to start with that. All right, y'all, I'm flipping this into a bigger bowl because there was no way I was going to be able to get my hands in there. And I totally should have taken my rings off, but I didn't. So basically, you're just going to get this all mixed together really well. You don't want to over-mix beef because it can get tough, but you want everything to be mixed well. So just kind of pay attention, and when everything seems to be kind of homogeneous, kind of, you know, equal throughout, then you're just going to start making your meatballs. If it feels too wet to you, you can add some more breadcrumbs. If it feels too dry, you can add another egg. I'm going to go ahead and start forming meatballs. And as long as you make them all about the same size, that's all that really matters, because then they'll cook evenly. That's all you're looking for, is for it to cook evenly. I'm going to make these pretty big because the chunks of feta and the sun-dried tomatoes, I think, will lend itself better to a little bit of a bigger meatball. And then you could serve these over zoodles. You could serve these with a marinara sauce. You could serve these just on their own with a side salad. These are going to be super, super flavorful though, y'all. Okay, I'm going to make all of these, and then I'll come back and we'll probably make one more type of meatball because we've got more beef to work with, y'all. Next, we're going to make Italian meatballs, about 3 pounds. So I've got 5 tablespoons of basil pesto, and I'm going to go in with a cup of Parmesan cheese. This is going to be the main binder for these. I'm going to also add half a cup of my breadcrumb mixture to help hold these together. So that is that. And then we are going to go in with Italian seasoning with this one. And I'm also going to do a few dry chopped onions, just about a tablespoon worth of these. Okay, we also are going to use up some of the stuff in the fridge that we need to use up. So I've got some tomato sauce here that needs to get used up. It's got some peppers in it, and I'm just going to go ahead and use that. That's about half a cup of that. And then I have some roasted garlic. I make roasted garlic about once a month or so, so I'm going to take a good tablespoon of roasted garlic. It gives so much flavor. So we're going to use that up. And then we are just going to get in here and get this all mixed together. And then we're gonna do one special thing. I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of Italian seasoning to this. Actually, I'm not because we use the basil pesto. I'm just gonna add 1. About a tablespoon, that's good, of Italian seasoning. Again, we're using Fresh Jack's because that's just our favorite. You can get a million different brands of Italian seasoning, so whatever you want. So what I was saying was I'm gonna mix these all up and they would be perfectly great meatballs just like this. But we happen to have some mini mozzarella balls that I got at Costco. So we are going to stuff each of these meatballs with a piece of mozzarella cheese is our plan. The other thing you could do with this mixture right here makes an amazing meatloaf. So if you don't feel like making lots of little balls, you could just form this into a meatloaf, whatever size meatloaf you want. You could do mini meatloaves. You could do, oftentimes I do like individual size meatloaves, like this size, and shape them kind of like a football and freeze them. So if you don't feel like doing meatballs, you can totally use this mixture to make meatloaf. And you could totally stuff your meatloaf with the mozzarella cheese balls if you wanted. And I am thinking about making these mini meatloaves. What do you think, Jack?
We'll just have to do, I mean, I've opened all these, so we gotta figure out something to do with
We can
them.
stuff it.
Yeah, I think that will work just fine.
I think we're gonna make mini meatloaves, y'all, because I've been making a lot and we just made all those meatballs. So what I'm gonna do is make a meatloaf. It's kind of shaped like a football. I'm gonna set it and kind of squish it out flat, like a rectangle. If you don't want to stuff it, then you can eliminate this step. I'm going to take 4 of these little balls and then I'm going to wrap it up all the way around. Probably be easier just to pick it up and do it. And just make sure that those meatballs are just in the middle, and you are going to make sure they're wrapped really, really well. Now, just so you know, because this ground beef is very fatty, it will release a lot when it's cooking. So oftentimes you'll get a little bit of cheese oozing out. I think that cheese that oozes out tastes really good, but don't think you did it wrong because this is completely covered, but it may ooze out. So we're just gonna keep making those and then we'll be right back with you to do the next thing. Actually, y'all, who I'm talking to on the phone right now is who I'm making the recipes for. She's new to keto and I have made drinks for her before she was keto and she loved them. And she actually has encouraged me to kind of do some large batches. And I think that might be coming up in the near future for people local to us. I might make like a batch of like 10 or 12 full like large batch drinks and sell them. But what I'm making for my friend this weekend, she's going out of town to her girlfriend's house. She just started keto and she knows she'll probably be drinking alcohol. So I was gonna make a large batch, meaning like 8 drinks worth of a mix. Then she could easily make the drink with very, very minimal effort. Because I realize some people are gonna get all into it like me and wanna make the shrubs and wanna make the vinegars. And some people would rather just have somebody make the shrubs and vinegars for them or make mixes and then it's easy to assemble. So I'm trying to make that available. Maybe. We're looking into it. But anyways, one of the drinks that is super, super popular that everybody across the board seems to love is my strawberry lemonade shrub. So this is called a strawberry lemonade shrub spritzer. And I'm going to tell you how I make the drink regularly out of my cookbook, and I'll put it down below the exact recipe. It is a recipe from our cookbook, but we will share it. And what it is we take lemon juice or lime juice, either one works here. We take triple sec, which is our keto low carb triple sec. That's in our cookbook. Regular triple sec is full of sugar. You can make this a vodka drink or a rum drink. We prefer the vodka, but I think it would be good with rum as well. And then one of our secrets is, well, we have 2 secrets. My shrubs, which I teach you exactly how to do in the book. And I make a large portion of them and they will make a lot of drinks. So this is a strawberry lime shrub. And what that is a drinking vinegar, basically. You do not have to mix it with alcohol. You could mix it with just lemonade or sparkling drinks of any kind. My kids do that all the time. The vodka is not necessary, but you know, it's nice. And then the other trick, if you're wanting to do keto or low carb, is these sparkling ice drinks, strawberry lemonade. Now, they don't have amazing ingredients. It does have some sucralose, but I mean, we're talking about drinking here, right? We're not talking about the cleanest of cleanest keto. We're talking about a once in a while treat. You're out with your friends, right? So I am going to build her a larger batch, meaning 8 servings of this drink. And I'll show you how I make the large batch and then what she'll need to add to it. So what we're gonna do is take 8 ounces of strawberry lime shrub. I've already got that here, measured out. And then I'm gonna do 4 ounces of lemon juice. You can totally do lime juice here too. I like them both. It's almost negligible taste-wise. The lemon one does make it a little bit more lemonade-y versus lime-y, but both are really, really great. So we're gonna go with 4 ounces of lemon juice. And normally I would say use fresh lemon juice, except I have found this one brand. This is the only pre-bottled lemon juice I've ever tried that I love. It's called Italian Volcano Lemon Juice, 100% organic lemon juice, 40 lemons in every bottle. It's fresh pressed. It's not cheap. This bottle, I think it's like $16 and maybe $20. I don't know. It's not cheap, but it lasts a while and you don't have to squeeze the lemons. So that's just a little shortcut we're going to go with. And then we're going to need 4 ounces of triple sec. Now, triple sec is full of sugar. So we make our own triple sec. It's in our cocktail book. I will leave a link down below. We just came out with a cocktail book in the last few weeks and I'm really proud of it, y'all. Anyways, that's down below. But this is one of the great recipes because you can use triple sec in so many ways. So many ways. Okay, sorry, I'm getting all chatty. 4 ounces of triple sec. Triple sec is just an orange liqueur, basically. So I'm just going to give you a brief. Not going to remember it exactly, but we use brandy as our base, and then you use a ton of orange rinds, and then we use a simple syrup. And we use Swoon simple syrup in ours because of the mouthfeel. We really, really like it. But you could make your own simple syrup as well. So that doesn't I don't even remember what the exact measurements are for that. And this also takes a couple weeks to make because it needs to sit. But once you make a big batch of it, it lasts you forever. It's shelf stable just like any other alcohol because of the high alcohol content. So it's very shelf stable it's not like it's gonna go bad. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is just kind of mix this up. I'm gonna use my handy dandy I usually use this for coffee, my little milk frother. But I'm just gonna mix this up. Behind the scene camera, my husband is saying I should mix it all up together and then pour it back in. So this is 8 ounces of my strawberry lime shrub. You could make straight strawberry shrub. You could make a strawberry basil shrub. You could make a strawberry lemon shrub. You can make it however you want, y'all. There are so many variations that you can do with the shrubs, the drinking vinegars. And like I said, they are great even without the alcohol. And they're actually really good for you because I use a raw vinegar with the mother and I ferment them over time. So they're actually really, really good for you, the drinking vinegars. Okay, so I'm going to take my little funnel and I'm going to pour all of this into this glass. I like to store my drinks in glass rather than plastic. And you can buy these bottles on Amazon. I can try and remember to link it down below. This is enough for her to have 8 drinks. So here's the recipe. For this large batch, what you would do is 2 ounces of this mix, 2 ounces of vodka. You could do 1.5 to 2, but we usually do 2. 2 ounces of whatever vodka you like. And then you're going to mix this together. You just do this in your glass. So get a glass of ice, put these in 2 ounces, 2 ounces, and then you're going to take your sparkling ice drink. You can use strawberry lemonade, you can use berry lemonade, you could use a limeade, whatever flavor you like. I'm giving her actually some strawberry lemonade and some berry lemonade so she can have a little bit of variety. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your glass of ice, you're going to pour in 2 ounces of this, 2 ounces of this, 4 ounces of this. Give it a little stir, drink and enjoy, repeat. I have one right here actually. I was trying to decide, y'all, if I liked the lemon or the lime in it better. So I went ahead and made a batch. And I pretty much decided it's negligible. Both of them taste great. So I've got this batch for my friend Susan ready to go. I'm going to drop it off at her door and she's going to have a great weekend. I thought I would just bring y'all out to the freezer to end this. I'm flash freezing these meatballs. So we've got our sun-dried tomato meatballs. We have our Italian mozzarella stuffed individual sized meatloaves. And then down here, this is the stack of the marinated pork. And also somewhere in here is our big marinated. Okay, so we've got our stack of our pork that's marinating. And then I want to show you what it looks like when it's done. It comes out and once it freezes, it's really flat like this. And then you could stack them. And so that's what I tend to do. I keep them stacked just up and down ways. And it just saves so much space in my freezer, y'all. So that's what we got done today. After a big Costco haul, this is something that I generally do, and I don't think I've ever taped it for y'all. So I hope you enjoyed hanging out. Hope you got some ideas how to save money by using bulk amounts and then breaking it down before you freeze it. If you break it down and go ahead and get it ready, then when you're ready to use it, it's gonna take you so much less time. And then also with the chicken, I always save my carcasses. So here's a chicken carcass. I think there's one down here. Once I get 2 or 3, I use it to make bone broth. So that's even another step that I'll do that I don't really remember to show y'all. So I will talk to y'all again soon. Be blessed, y'all. Love you much. See you really soon. Bye.